Hello everyone, and welcome to another Monster Hunter World video. This is Thegameconomist, and today I want to share my list of changes that I'd like to see Capcom make to Nergigante in order to make him an Arch Tempered Elder Dragon. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get started. Change number 1, don't make us fight him in the Elder's Recess. I know the odds of this are pretty low, but I'm crazy tired of fighting in the Elder's Recess. I think most of you guys are too. You get most of the Elder Dragon fights there anyways, as well as Azure Rathalos, Uragan, Dodogama, Lavasiath, and either of the traveling monsters Basilgeuse or Deviljho. It feels like we spend 50% or more of our time on that map. Meanwhile, you have distinct areas like the Zora Magdaros location, maybe his back, right? I know we fight Nergigante on his back, but it would be really strange having an entire fight on his back. But I don't know, maybe they could make a little arena reusing some of the resources that they used in order to make the Zora Magdaros fight, right? So it's just a thought. Then you have the Kulve Taroth map. Really, all they would have to do is close off stage 4 of the Kulve Taroth map and just have us fight him there. As well as the Zenajiva map. Same deal, we could just fight him in the same area that we already fight Arch Tempered Zenajiva. And I don't know, that one wouldn't be as exciting because we just fought Arch Tempered Zenajiva, but I honestly believe it would be more fun than fighting Arch Tempered Nergigante in the Elder's Recess, just because I'm so tired of the Elder's Recess, and here are these other locations that are just extremely underused. So all Capcom would have to do is let us have the Arch Tempered Nergigante fight in one of those areas, and the fight would immediately feel fresh. Change number 2 is more of a thing they shouldn't change. Number 2, don't make it impossible to break Nergigante's spikes. One of the main reasons regular Nergigante is so fun is because you can consistently break his white spikes, and even in multiplayer, you can typically break a few spikes before he eventually grows enough black ones in order to use the Nergigante Dive Bomb. If Arch Tempered Nergigante has unbreakable white spikes due to some change in the mechanics, for example, giving the spikes a larger part break health bar, then you're going to see fewer players choosing to fight him in multiplayer, that's my opinion, and he'll lose a bit of what I think made him so fun. I would be okay if they changed it so that he doesn't get knocked over when the spikes break. I'm also okay with them making the dive bomb way more dangerous, for example, by increasing the radius of the attack. But if I learn that my odds of breaking the white spikes on an average build are too low, I just feel like his spike mechanics will be seen as more of a cosmetic timer used for avoiding the dive bomb, rather than a fun part break target that you can actually set goals around. Change number 3, give Nergigante a new ailment that he can apply. One of the things that Nergigante should have had from the start was the ability to apply the bleed status to players. I mean, which monster in the game is more likely to cause you to bleed than the one literally covered in sharp spikes? Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but right now the only monsters who apply bleed are Odogaron, and is kind of part of his normal moveset, and that, it makes sense, as well as the Behemoth, but he only applies it from his grab. All Capcom would have to do is change his spike attacks so that they can apply bleed if they successfully land. Alternatively, I think he could apply defense down. I'll talk more about that issue when we discuss the Gamma Armor. Change number 4, force players to really consider bringing earplugs into the fight. This one is simple, because Nergigante doesn't currently cause any blights, and he only deals raw damage. He should have some other method of being deadly that forces you to be thoughtful about building defense, and personally I think it would make the most sense to have Nergigante true combo players who have been stunned by his roar. We already have a monster who does this. I know for a fact Teostra does it, and if you're curious about what I mean by true combo, a true combo is where two attacks are going to chain together successfully, and there's nothing you can do about it. So his roar would stun you long enough for him to land an attack afterwards, and there would have been nothing that you can do about it other than avoid the initial roar. Another term for this is juggling. So the attack that true combos off of his roar, in my opinion, it shouldn't kill you, but it should be an annoying enough move that you have to weigh the cost of not bringing earplugs. Another one of my reasons for this change is that it would incentivize players to consider bringing the Nergigante Hunting Horn. Since it has the earplugs extra large buff, the Lunastra version of the Nergigante Horn does this as well. So I'm thinking about you guys, you Hunting Horn users. Change number 5 is don't give Nergigante health regen. So this is another one of those where I think it would be a bad idea for them to make this change. I'm betting some of you will recommend that Nergigante should heal himself in the middle of the fight by any number of health regen mechanics. Like maybe if Nergigante lands enough hits, similar to the way his armor works, right, his health regen, or maybe he should just be given very slow regeneration over time. It's a tempting mechanic because it fits in with his theme of regeneration, but the primary reason this would be terrible is because a lot of randoms would have no idea what is going on unless there was some visual clue confirming when and how Nergigante heals himself. It also further punishes players for not trying to build like a speedrunner, meaning the longer Nergigante gets to fight, the more health he probably regenerated over that time. So kind of snowballs against players who are already struggling, similar to the way timers work in Monster Hunter World, right? So like if you've been fighting a monster for 49 minutes, more than the player who beat the monster in 5 minutes, you probably deserve those rewards, but the timer decides, oh, you hit 50 minutes, no rewards for you. Health regen for Nergigante would work exactly the same way. You would have somebody inevitably would have to fight him for 30 minutes, and because he's taking so long, Nergigante heals the most health because he has the largest window to heal. See what I'm saying? So it's just a bad idea. Change number 6. Give Nergigante a new attack that I'm calling the Wet Dog. So one thing Arch Tempered Nergigante absolutely should have is some new, large, powerful attacks that make him feel like a boss. You know, they did this with Arch Tempered Zenitjiva. It's one of the reasons why he was so fun. So what I'm recommending is that Capcom adds a massive AoE attack, and the way it's triggered, the way it begins is, there's a point in the fight where Nergigante is completely covered in spikes, but they haven't all turned black. So the moment the last set of spikes begins to grow, whether they're black or white, this move, the Wet Dog, should trigger, right? And the way it's going to work is, oh, and by the way, if you didn't know this, the spikes on Nergigante's body, they only grow there if you do damage to him. So you can kind of have some control over this if you just mostly only attack his head, and that's a general tip for any Nergigante fight. Anyways, so imagine Nergigante is finally fully covered in spikes. They haven't all turned black, but he's fully covered, and now he's triggering the Wet Dog move, which it triggers once he's covered. And what he's going to do is he's going to use the same motion a dog uses when it tries to dry itself off. The move will have a significant tell so that the players have a time to get behind a cover, or turn their backs, for a dive evade, or prepare to guard. And then after winding up, Nergigante shakes all the spikes out in every direction within a pretty large radius to deal about 1/3 damage to your health bar and immediately apply the bleed status. So I said shakes all the spikes out. I should have been careful about how I worded that. I don't mean he removes them from his body, but that he's shooting them out in every direction. Once the move is over, you still have to deal with the fact that he's covered in spikes, and you still have to try and stop them from turning black. So change number 6 was a pretty big deal. He shoots spikes out in all directions now, and he has a new move. Change number 7 is also going to be a new move. I'm calling it the Ultimate Pin. This is something I think would add a lot of fun to the game. Have you ever been grabbed by a monster and just kind of rolled your eyes because it doesn't matter? Except for maybe the Behemoth. The Behemoth, it starts to matter, right? But it's not necessarily going to one-shot you. Nergigante is always going to one-shot you, right? So Nergigante is given a new grabbing attack that always one-shots the player if it lands. The player is given time to react to this attack, so if they are grabbed, it's really their own fault. So it's very well telegraphed, and if you can react to it, fine. But if you screw up, you're going to get grabbed. And Nergigante will then go through a very lengthy animation where he picks you up, flies into the air, and then impressively smashes you back into the ground, shooting spikes off of his arms if he happens to have them. Because the animation of this attack is meant to take a while, your teammates will have a small period of time to try and break you out of the grab. That's what makes this so exciting. So players will actually see him scoop you up. It looks very impressive. It looks bad, and they're doing everything they can to rescue you, and you're going to have these moments where, like, maybe he's just about to slam onto the ground and you cause him to flinch out of the grab, out of the animation, and you save your teammate's life at just the last moment. You're going to have moments like that if you do this. So also, in case you're worried about this for solo mode, I think the rules should allow you to break out of the grab one time using a flash pod if you're able to equip it and fire it in time. But only one. After you've fired one, he becomes immune. And if Arch Tempered Nergigante becomes immune to the flash pods, it means you're not going to be able to stop him from escaping to his nest. Which leads us right into change number 8, updating Nergigante's nest. Since we'll probably have to fight Nergigante in the Elder's Recess again, it's also going to be the case that we'll have to fight him in his nest. And Capcom likes to alter the nest to make it more dangerous whenever we're talking about fighting an Arch Tempered Elder Dragon. So what I would say here is, if I was going to add an additional health regen mechanic to the fight, other than his, him going to sleep and regenning, which again, I'm not recommending doing this. If I was going to do it, I'd do it here. And once again, I'll mention it should have a visual cue. Players should realize he's getting more health regen in his nest than normal. And that would mean that fighting him in his nest and being able to end the fight fast is even more important. Other than that, I feel like his nest is already pretty difficult just because of the small size and the annoying stalactites that fall off of the ceiling. You see, I thought about maybe having more of those added to the game, but that would require them to edit the map, so I don't think that's going to happen. Here's one. It would be interesting if Nergigante refused to dive bomb during this stage of the fight, during his nest fight, right? Or if he did, but he didn't lose his black spikes after using the dive bomb, one or the other. I mean, it all depends on how awful you want this fight to be. He could just go back there and you could bomb him and collect your rewards, or if you like being a masochist, you could give him massive health regen and permanent black spikes. For me, I'd much rather have it so that he has no nest at all, because we aren't even fighting him in the Elder's Recess, because I'm tired of fighting him in the Elder's Recess. Alright, and there's only two more issues to talk about. Number 9 and 10 are both going to be about the rewards. Let's start with number 9, changes to layered armor. Let me start off by saying, if we had it my way, we wouldn't even be talking about this. The way layered armor should have been handled with this game, I think, is pretty obvious. When you can have access to that armor, it means you can also turn it into a layered armor set. I don't see any other reason why. I mean, unless they're artificially extending the game, the replayability, which they haven't even done that. The layered armor sets are just not in the game, so it doesn't make any sense, right? So, and then for the rewards, what we would have actually gotten is the gamma armor, as well as either a way to upgrade the existing weapons for those Elder Dragons, or just a brand new weapon for that Elder Dragon. That's what I would have done. But since it's not that way, and we don't have a bunch of layered armor in the game, and we're only going to get one new set with Arch Tempered Nergigante, I'm just going to say I would prefer to have the bone armor set next. I don't know what you guys prefer, but I think the bone armor set looks really cool, and it's one of those armor sets where they're probably not going to make a gamma version, and yeah, so that's my choice. Finally, the last change number 10, what are we getting with the Arch Tempered Nergigante Gamma set? So get comfortable, because this is kind of probably one of the longest ones on the list. I have a lot to say. For the most part, Capcom has done a pretty good job with the Gamma sets. That's my opinion. I think a lot of players are too quick to feel ripped off when they see the set for the first time, the Gamma set, and after they've had a little more time to analyze it, really use it, I think what happens is that they go, okay, this armor set had 2 or 3 pieces that made meaningful changes to the armor meta, and that's pretty much what Capcom should be striving for, once again, in my opinion, because if every single piece of armor made this huge contribution to the armor meta, to the tier rankings, then every time a new monster came out, we'd have to change all our builds over, and you'd have a problem. Changing the builds would probably be fun, let's be honest, but you'd have a different problem, and this is something they need to avoid. It's called power creep. Power creep is kind of like artificial difficulty, except in reverse. You're becoming artificially powerful. The developers just post some overpowered new reward in hopes to attract back their audience, and now you can cheese a monster that was once difficult, right? For players who wanted to wear a full gamma set, a better solution would have just been to let the player always make a layered set out of any armor available in the game. Of course, you guys already know my feelings on that because we just talked about that. But the issue of power creep is actually a pretty important one. If you guys, let me say it this way, when they're doing everything right, you don't notice it. When they're making a problem, when they're doing something wrong, that's when you notice it and you complain, right? So here's a terrific example. The Draken armor set came out, it was really strong, and now you have people complaining because they go, well, there's no build diversity. You look backwards and you go, all those old armor sets are obsolete. These new armor sets are obsolete because we have the Draken armor. So really the goal is, when you're creating new armor, is you want to add to the build diversity. You want to add to the complexity of the game without just adding something that's just overpowered, right? And that's what you're trying to avoid. It's a difficult line to tread, to be able to do that well. And I think Capcom's actually done a reasonable job. I don't think they've gone, Draken armor set is good, it is, but it's not so good that it just trashes everything else in the game, especially when you consider there are a lot of weapons that don't need Master's Touch at all. Anyways, let's get back to talking about the main topic. We have to talk about what a good Nergigante set should look like. So the skills that showed up on the Nergigante's previous set, the Alpha set, are Attack Boost, Agitator, Stamina Surge, Maximum Might, and of course the bonus skill, Nergigante Hunger. Now, if you do this, if you go back and study the other Elder Dragon Alpha sets, and then compare them to their matching Gamma sets, you'll see the same thing I did. There's a pattern where Capcom actually sticks to their original build direction for each of those monsters, each of those Elder Dragons, and they only either change the efficiency of the build, that is, they allow you to build more of whatever the skill is, the default skill is, or they let you build the same skills but in a different armor slot. A terrific example is actually the Kirin Gamma set. I was just talking about it, where you had the beta legs. They allowed you to build a free element in the leg slot, and then the Gamma set allows you to build it in the chest slot. Well, that's one of the common changes that they make with the Gamma sets. And finally, the last thing that they tend to do, they'll actually add a skill that wasn't on the Alpha or Beta set. So that's a legitimate change, but they don't take away skills that had previously been on the Alpha Beta set. They only add to it. So those are some of the things that I noticed. And typically, when they're adding a new skill, they choose something that pairs well with the set bonus skill, like something that has synergy with the set bonus skill, or something that's underutilized in the game right now, yet it matches the theme of the monster. For the Nergigante set bonus skill Hasten Recovery, we know that you get your health back by continuously attacking the monster. Basically, it's kind of like a free health regen, except in my opinion, not quite as good as a free health regen. I'm not exactly sure what is meant to pair with a skill like that, right? You can see the old Alpha armor has Stamina Surge on it, but honestly that only helps a few weapons keep their attack up, and I doubt they're going to add even more stamina skills like Constitution onto the Gamma set, although I suppose that is possible. Like, they could actually put Stamina Surge and Constitution together, and that would make bows crazy overpowered, as if they're not already at the top of the speedrun meta. More from an art style direction, it would make sense if the Nergigante Gamma set was given Iron Skin, the skill that protects you from defense down, because literally that's what Nergigante does when he grows a pair of black spikes that act like what? Like Iron Skin. And very few armors currently let you build this skill. The only problem is that I almost never build defense down, because it's one of those ailments you don't really run into very often, and when you do, it's not that hard to deal with. And that's why I was suggesting earlier, if they don't give Nergigante bleed, they could instead give him defense down, and then have the Iron Skin be one of the skills on the set. Alternatively, there's the other skill, the defense boost skill, right? Which right now, there's really not even one decent set that builds it other than the Damascus set, and I don't feel like it has a lot of synergy with the Damascus set. So defense boost should be an option as well for the Nergigante Gamma set, because I'm not sure if Capcom will ever release a Damascus Gamma set, right? So I've really been thinking about it, and you have skills like Elementalist, and you have skills like Magazine, and even Mind's Eye Ballistic, and I think what they could do is actually add those to new pieces of armor, but for Arch Tempered monsters from like the threat level 2 monsters. Hopefully, in my opinion, besides doing DLC, they actually should continue to do Arch Tempered monsters. They should just obviously jump over to the threat level 2 monsters next. And that's just my opinion. Maybe you guys feel like after the Elder Dragons are done, no more Arch Tempered monsters after that, but I suspect that's going to be their style of drip content, and that they'll probably have a DLC coming soon. So we're probably going to see Arch Tempered Dodogama, and then when you fight him, I would hope that the Magazine skill returns on that armor set, along with a much more efficient armor set, one that actually fits into the armor meta. When we think of Nergigante, we tend to think of, the attack boost skill that's built into his armor, as well as Agitator, or Maximum Might, but we don't think about him from a turtling perspective. Think about this. Compared to the other monsters in the game, Nergigante is actually one of the tankiest Elder Dragons we have. The only reason this isn't immediately apparent is because he breaks off his black spikes as soon as he finishes growing them. If Nergigante just didn't use Dive Bomb, which is what I suggested for the nest, we'd have one of the slowest, most annoying battles in the game, and everyone would be focusing on explosive damage types or something other than, or something that gets around it, right? So it would be interesting if Capcom took the Gamma Armor in a whole new direction and made it one of the tankiest setups in the game. Gamma Armor, I mean the Nergigante Gamma Armor, with natural health regen that allows you to augment your weapons for further defense. What I mean is, so he has the Nergigante Hunger, that's the hasten recovery. Since you've already got that on his armor set, and he has a very tanky set, let's say you have 3 pieces of the set, maxing out as much defense as you can, and then you don't even augment your weapon for health regen, you actually augment it for more defense, something that nobody in the game does. So I think this is a really clever idea, because right now Capcom hasn't really given us a reason to augment our weapons for defense, and this might be that reason. If we just had enough defense, let's say we just had a really pinnacle of defense, a new threshold for it, and then natural health regen from the hasten recovery, we might have a reason to take triple defense on our augments. It's just something to think about, really, something to think about. Alright, and if Capcom isn't going to steal my great idea and they're going to stick with turning Arch Tempered Nergigante's Gamma Armor into a damage set, the best we can hope for is really high tier pieces that offer tons of agitator, tons of attack boost, and tons of maximum might, because otherwise I guarantee the armor meta is most likely going to be 4 pieces of the Dragon set and 1 piece of something else for the majority of blade weapons in the game. Right, like if Nergigante Gamma set offers a new, more efficient way to build maximum might, maybe in like the waist slot, let's say that, you would just see players take that single piece of armor and add it to the Draken setup, and never really use the Nergigante set bonus skill for any serious build, which is exactly what Capcom should be looking to avoid. Every Arch Tempered Elder Dragon Gamma set should have skills worth building for. I think that was one of the mistakes they have with Kieran, his Gamma set. They should have added something to it. The set bonus skill, they should have added something, because he is definitely one of those armor sets where you're just going to take 1 piece of it, throw the rest away. And we don't want that with Arch Tempered Nergigante. He's kind of their mascot for this particular game. It really should be impressive, that's my opinion. The Behemoth, he's not even from Monster Hunter World, he's from Final Fantasy. Let the Arch Tempered Nergigante set be more powerful than the Draken set. I think that people would appreciate that. Anyways, I'm going to leave the speculation there for now. I'm sure in a short amount of time we'll actually know what Capcom decides to do with the Arch Tempered Nergigante Gamma set. Let me know what you thought of the changes I've suggested. I've talked a lot, and let me know what you'd like to see as well. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.